Chapter 1. I cut my long hair of 3 years into a shoulder-length style. The moment Leo saw me, his face darkened. "Didn't I tell you short hair doesn't suit you? Why don't you ever listen to me?" He shoved his hands into his pockets and shot me a sideways glance. "Do you even realize how ugly you look like this?" Leo didn't bother hiding his disdain for my short hair. Anger bubbled up inside me, and I stormed off along the lakeside, retorting, "Everyone else says it looks great, only you think it's ugly. Why do you always enjoy putting me down? Do you find that fun?" Honestly, it wasn't a big deal, not worth wasting my energy to argue about. But the way Leo looked at me today, it hurt. His gaze felt unfamiliar, cold. Leo froze for a moment, clearly not expecting me to tear up at his words. "You're so sensitive." I was just joking. He always loved joking. In our first year of college, he publicly said my makeup looked outdated, like something from the countryside. I was furious and smashed a plate, but he pointed at me and turned to laugh with others. "See? I told you she overreacts." So petty. In our 3rd year, he took me to dinner with his parents. At the table, Leo casually slapped the knife and fork out of my hands. "Knife in your right hand, fork in your left. Don't you even know such basic table manners? You're embarrassing." The utensils clattered to the floor, leaving a small but noticeable scratch on my leg. The wound wasn't particularly painful, but it made me gasp in surprise. In the end, Leo's parents merely gave him a half-hearted scolding. "Lisa, don't take Leo's words to heart. He's always like this. You two will have to live together in the future, so you'll need to get used to his temper." Leo, meanwhile, sat there motionless, as calm as ever. He simply said, "Lisa, I was just joking. Don't get mad." He always hurt people under the guise of joking, then blamed them for being too sensitive. But today, I decided to be the petty person he always accused me of being, the kind who couldn't take a joke. I took 2 steps back and said coldly, "Leo, do you even know that I'm left-handed?" Chapter 2. Leo looked at me, confused. "Why are you bringing that up now? Are you trying to show off that you're left-handed and smarter than the average person?" Hearing his response, I couldn't help but fall into a deep pit of self-doubt. How could 2 people who didn't even share the same wavelength manage to stay together for 3 years? In these 3 years, I had known Leo's flaws all too well, yet I chose to forgive him time and time again. If I stopped tolerating his behavior, would it mean this relationship had finally run its course? I raised my voice a bit, cutting him off. "I'm only comfortable holding a knife in my left hand and a fork in my right. I don't care about so-called table manners." Leo's expression showed sudden realization, but he still raised his eyebrows dismissively. "I was just joking back then, and you're still holding a grudge? Lisa, do you really need to be so petty?" It wasn't about holding a grudge, and it wasn't about being petty. I just wondered, did Leo always see me as inferior to him? He was the one who pursued me back then, but now he was the one belittling me. "Why should I listen to you, Leo?" I turned to leave, but his large hand clamped around my arm, the grip almost painful. Perhaps Leo hadn't expected me to fight back. There was a hint of irritation in his voice. "Lisa, you're with me, so what more could you possibly want? Are you just being difficult for the sake of it? If you don't behave, I'll just find some other girl from that dorm to date." He said this, suddenly pointing to a nearby building, the girls' dorm. Dorm 17 was where all the second-year girls lived. Both Leo and I were in our 4th year, and we hardly knew anyone in the second-year group. I pulled my arm free, feeling exhausted. Leo was like a child. Every argument ended with empty threats, trying to intimidate people. I had once thought I could keep tolerating it, but now I suddenly found myself tired of his childish behavior. I let out a sigh. "Leo, you have no right to judge my interests or habits, whether we're dating or married. I'm Lisa. I'm not an accessory to you. If you like long hair so much, go buy yourself a doll and comb its hair every day. Just don't come demanding that from me." I hadn't even finished speaking when Leo, like a cat whose fur had been ruffled, flew into a rage. He cursed under his breath and suddenly shoved me. "Lisa, what the hell is wrong with you?" Chapter 3. We were standing by the lake, and the path was full of uneven cobblestones. I stepped on one of the stones, losing my balance, and fell hard toward the ground. In that split second as I fell, I saw a flash of panic in Leo's eyes. He raised his hand, as if to help, but ultimately chose not to, letting me fall right before his eyes. I hit the ground heavily, feeling as though my internal organs were about to be crushed by the raised stones beneath me. Some sharp rock tore into the palm of my hand, sending a sharp, stinging pain through me. I looked down at my sandy, bloodied hand and, to my surprise, felt my anger vanish. It was only then that Leo realized the seriousness of the situation. He reached out to help me up. I pushed his hand away and struggled to stand on my own, looking as disheveled as I felt. "I don't need your help. Get lost." Leo opened his mouth, his brows furrowing. "Lisa, I didn't realize I pushed you that hard." I shot him a disappointed glance before turning and heading toward the dormitory building. Leo didn't follow. He just stood there, staring blankly at the spot where I'd fallen. And so, Leo and I entered a cold war. At first, he seemed guilty for pushing me and injuring me, sending me messages every so often. He even ordered medicine through delivery apps, reminding me to disinfect and care for my wounds. I looked at the messages popping up on my screen and felt an inexplicable frustration. I put down the iodine solution, clicked on Leo's profile picture, and set his messages to do not disturb. The phone, which had been constantly buzzing with notifications, finally fell silent. In the following days, Leo didn't contact me again. The last message he sent was an impatient complaint. "Lisa, I've let you sulk for a few days, but I'm warning you, don't push it too far." I tossed the phone aside, trying my best to forget about Leo. With graduation approaching, I was busy with my internship, and soon enough, Leo was out of my mind. Even my coworker couldn't help but remark, "Never thought I'd see the day when Lisa wasn't all about her boyfriend. It's a miracle." I turned to her, confused. "Have I ever been all about my boyfriend?" My coworker sighed, almost exasperated. "Everyone else has their boyfriend picking them up from work. But not you. You were the one picking your boyfriend up from work. If that's not being love-obsessed, I don't know what is." I couldn't even manage a forced smile. My face turned awkwardly stiff. Because she was right. Leo used to say that his internship was far, and he didn't want to take the subway. So, he had me take a cab to pick him up after work every day. Sometimes he was so busy that even the cab drivers complained about not wanting to wait any longer. I would end up standing alone in the cold wind, waiting for Leo to stroll out of his office building at his leisure. Thinking back, I could only shake my head helplessly. I guess I was blinded by stupidity before, but it won't happen again. Chapter 4. Leo and I had been in a cold war for a week. His social media accounts were updated daily as usual, with pictures of him playing basketball, going to work, coming back, and dining with friends. One night, as I lay in bed scrolling on my phone, I stumbled upon a recent post of his. The picture was of the cityscape at night, taken from a taxi on his way home. I zoomed in on the image, and in the reflection of the car window, I saw a shadow. In the back seat, it wasn't just Leo, there was someone else with him. I knew Leo well. He had always been accustomed to luxury and wouldn't share a ride with someone else. So who was the person sitting next to him now? I stared blankly, swiping my finger on the screen, checking the comments section. Leo didn't have many followers on this account, and not many people commented on his posts. He knew very well that I hardly ever paid attention to his social media. That's why he always posted casually, without any concern for what he said. One particular comment instantly caught my attention, commemorating the night view we saw together, and Leo had replied to her with an affectionate emoji. My heart sank. My hands moved on their own, and I tapped into that person's profile, a girl, located in this city. She updated her posts frequently. Almost all of them were snapshots of her daily life. It was easy to tell she was from the same school as us. My heartstrings were still taut. Leo and she weren't following each other. But upon a closer look, I realized that even though they weren't mutual followers, they had been interacting for over a year, and I had never noticed. The girl had commented on nearly all of Leo's recent posts. Brother Leo, will we go home together during the holidays? My luggage is too heavy. My parents want me to bring you home for dinner. For every comment she posted, Leo responded. Sometimes it was just an emoji. Sometimes a word or two. The rare glimpses of affection and gentleness from Leo were all directed at this girl named Alice. Chapter 5. It felt like I had stumbled upon a major secret. Just then, a call from Leo suddenly popped up on my screen. My heart skipped a beat, and I forgot what I was supposed to do next. The phone vibrated for a long time until my roommate noticed something was wrong. She nudged me, snapping me out of my daze. With trembling fingers, I hung up the call and shoved my phone under my pillow. What exactly was the relationship between Leo and that girl? After a while, my heart rate slowly returned to normal, but I couldn't shake the doubt. I pulled out my phone once again. Sometimes, I truly hated my own indecision and weakness. I tapped on the girl's account again and carefully examined every one of her posts. One of her posts from a year ago had an exact location tag. It read, Girls' Dormitory Building 17. Staring at those glaring numbers, it felt like a knife twisted in my heart, leaving me breathless from the pain. Wasn't that the same building Leo had pointed to in anger during our argument? I had always thought that it was just an empty threat, something Leo blurted out without thinking, but I never imagined that, in a moment of frustration, he would actually reveal his true thoughts. Leo's words felt like a boomerang, and now they had struck me straight in the heart. As I stood there in a daze, Leo's call came through again. I took a deep breath and answered. He was probably just calling to go through the motions of apologizing, ready to use it for emotional leverage later. He hadn't expected me to pick up. Leo's tone was clearly uneasy. Lisa, you're finally answering my call? Chapter 6. I didn't say anything, waiting to hear what nonsense he would come up with. He cleared his throat twice and then carefully spoke. Lisa, why don't we meet up? Winter break is coming, and if we don't see each other now, we won't meet for over a month. Leo deliberately lowered his voice, as if afraid someone might overhear him. It was better when he didn't mention going home for the holidays. Now that he had, my mind was instantly pulled back to the comment section of that post. Brother Leo, will we go home together during the holidays? My luggage is too heavy. Just thinking about that made my stomach turn in disgust. I tried to keep my emotions in check, speaking calmly. Leo, I don't want to see you anymore. Let's break up. Before Leo could respond, I hung up immediately. Then I blocked and deleted him, erasing him from my world completely. I thought about blocking that girl's account too, but as I clicked on her profile, I saw that she had posted again just a few minutes ago. The picture was taken under the orange glow of the lights outside dormitory 17. Showing two shadows standing side by side. The caption read, The perk of having a big brother, he helps me carry my luggage. So, when Leo called me earlier, he was waiting for her outside the girls' dorm? No wonder he sounded so flustered and caught off guard. A self-mocking laugh escaped my lips, but tears rolled down like broken pearls. Maybe this was for the best. It would finally allow me to give up completely. With the Lunar New Year approaching, I finished my internship and returned home. I hadn't even set my luggage down when I received a private message from an unknown sender. Do you know who I am? You've been watching me for quite some time now, haven't you? It was from Alice. The moment I saw the message, I felt like a child caught red-handed after doing something wrong. I instinctively wanted to explain myself, but then I realized I wasn't the one in the wrong, she was. I didn't respond and turned off my phone. No sooner had I placed the phone on the table than another message came in. Brother Leo said he was just fooling around with you. You're too far apart, and once you graduate, you'll each go your own way. But I'm different. Brother Leo and I grew up together. Our parents arranged for us to be married when we were kids. He didn't tell you, did he? He personally helped me choose my university. He said he didn't want to be apart from me and wanted to always take care of me. Every word from Alice's message pierced my eyes painfully. In the 3 years we were together, Leo had never once mentioned Alice to me. Did he really think of her as just his childhood friend, making it unnecessary to mention her? Or had he deliberately hidden her from me? The emotions I had kept calm for several days were stirred up again by her words, but I still tried to reply politely. Leo has a girlfriend. Do you really think your behavior was appropriate? There's an order to everything. If you had feelings for Leo, you should have waited until we broke up. Understand? Well, now we're broken up. Congratulations. You can step up. As I typed every word, I could clearly feel my heart pounding rapidly. The other side went quiet for a long time, so long that I thought she wouldn't respond. But a few minutes later, she called me directly. Without thinking, I answered the call. I had been holding in my emotions for so many days, and I needed an outlet, some way to let it all out. But to my surprise, it was Leo's voice that came from the other end of the line. Lisa, Alice is like a sister to me. Was it really necessary to be so harsh to her? I'm giving you 1 minute, apologize to Alice. Chapter 7. The words I had prepared suddenly got stuck in my throat. Leo's words were like a bucket of cold water poured over my head. I sobered up immediately, realizing how emotional I had been just moments ago. The root of all this was Leo, so why should I bother with another girl? I cleared my throat. Sorry. I forgot, we already broke up. Congratulations. By the way, no time wasted. And you're already in a new relationship. Leo was silent for a few seconds before sighing helplessly. Lisa, stop this. She's just a neighbor. Like a sister to me. Why did you have to confront her and say those hurtful things? From the way he spoke, it seemed like everything was my fault. But was I really the one who initiated things with Alice? I had never wanted to assume the worst of another girl. Even when I realized she had a close relationship with Leo, I had no intention of disturbing her. But in Leo's eyes, I had become the one with malicious intent. My voice returned to a calm tone. Leo, do you know what a childhood sweetheart is? There isn't just one person in this world with a childhood sweetheart. If you've always had her in your heart, why did you come to me in the first place? I wasn't the one who pursued you back then. Leo! After that tirade, Leo was left speechless, and I felt a significant sense of relief. Just then, there was a sudden knock at the door. Leo was still trying to say something, but I cut him off. You don't need to say anything else. Let's leave it at that and never see each other again. And one more thing, it wasn't me who started this. Why don't you ask her if she deleted those messages she sent me? I hung up and threw my phone onto the couch. The doorbell kept ringing, sounding urgent. I quickly ran to the door and opened it, only to see a familiar yet distant face. A tall figure loomed over me, the scent of winter plum filling the space. It was a scent I hadn't smelled in 5 years. My nose stung as I held back tears. Lucas, why are you back? Lucas reached out and ruffled my curls. His voice was warm and deep. Long time no see. Lisa. Chapter 8. On New Year's Eve, the house was bustling with preparations for dinner, a rare and lively occasion. I had just hung up the lanterns when my mom asked me to answer the door. I thought it was just my dad forgetting his keys. But when I opened the door, I was greeted by Leo's unpleasant face. Our neighborhood consisted of separate little yards. So how had Leo climbed over the gate? My hand stopped on the doorknob, and I noticed the tear in his pant leg from the rose thorns. What are you doing here? Leo kept his head down, his voice slightly hoarse. Lisa, I misunderstood you that day. He cautiously reached a hand toward me, but without my permission. He didn't dare touch me. I saw the deleted chat history from Alice on the computer. It was her fault, and I already scolded her for you. I was getting annoyed, and I waved my hand, cutting him off. I motioned for him to leave. What's the point of telling me this now? Let me ask you one thing, when your little childhood sweetheart came to you for help, did you even doubt her for a single second? In your eyes, am I truly such a terrible person? Leo's brows furrowed tightly, and when he looked at me, his eyes were moist. The fact that he couldn't answer me said it all. I let out a cold laugh and gave him a push. You're not welcome here. Go away. Leo stumbled to the side from my shove, with his body out of the way. My view suddenly opened up. That's when I noticed a car parked at the gate, with Alice leaning her head out the window, looking our way. Our eyes met for a second. She looked startled but then quickly showed a provocative smile. It was as if she was saying, "You lost." I looked away and gave Leo a cold glance. You two really can't be apart for even a second. Can you? Leo was caught off guard by my sudden remark, his tone now careful. Alice's parents are working overtime tonight, and she's scared to be alone at home. I nodded knowingly. Of course, after all, she's your beloved little childhood sweetheart. You've got to take care of her for life. I glanced inside. wanting to grab someone to help out. A tall figure, wearing an apron while bustling around the dining table, caught all of my attention. I waved at him, and he immediately put down the dishes, smiling as he walked over to me. Lisa, who have you been chatting with at the door for so long? Lucas's deep gaze brushed over Leo as he looked down at me gently. Lisa, is this a friend of yours, here to wish us a happy new year? I smiled and took Lucas's arm, then gestured toward Leo with my chin. Let me introduce you, this is my childhood friend, Lucas. Leo bit his lip hard, his face instantly turning pale. Lisa, what is the meaning of this? I shrugged nonchalantly. Well, no choice, Lucas's parents are working late tonight too, and he was scared to be alone, so he came to have New Year's Eve dinner with us. Got a problem with that? I repeated Leo's words back to him, word for word. Chapter 9. Leo's gaze landed on my hand that was holding Lucas's arm. He took a few steps back in disbelief. Then, seemingly unwilling to give up, suddenly rushed forward, trying to pull us apart. Lisa, we've been together for 3 years. How could I not know how much you love me? That childhood sweetheart thing, it's just you talking nonsense. Before I could react, Lucas stepped forward and shoved Leo away forcefully. Leo lost his balance, his body tilting backward, and he was about to fall to the ground. At the critical moment, Alice, who had been hiding in the car, appeared behind Leo and caught him. Alice's hand rested on Leo's waist in an intimate manner. Leo, I told you we shouldn't have come to find her. Has she given you a warm welcome? Look at her now. She's already found someone new. Maybe they were already sneaking around even before you two broke up. Before Alice could finish speaking, Leo slapped her across the face. That slap stunned not only Alice but also left Lucas and me in shock. Leo shook her hand off in disdain, his voice cold. When did I ever break up with Lisa? I only helped you out because we've been neighbors for so many years. What made you think you could interfere in my business? There wasn't a trace of emotion in Leo's voice. He sounded distant and indifferent. Alice covered her flushed cheek, tears streaming down like an open faucet. Leo, you hit me for an outsider? Weren't you the one who told me that your girlfriend was like a simp, easy to manipulate? Hearing that, I felt like a sharp thorn had pierced my heart. Every breath I took brought waves of pain. I exchanged a glance with Lucas, and we both shook our heads in resignation, unwilling to argue any further. Leo ignored her completely, turning instead to explain himself to me. Seeing the disappointment in my eyes, his voice trembled with anxiety. Lisa, don't listen to her nonsense. I never thought that way. I promise. I'll keep my distance from Alice from now on. Just please, don't get so close to your childhood friend, okay? I found it utterly ridiculous. Instead of listening to him, I moved even closer to Lucas. Leo, can't you get it through your head? We are already broken up. Even if I decide to start a relationship with Lucas right this moment, it has nothing to do with you. I held on to Lucas as we both took a step back into the house. I looked at Leo one last time, seeing his eyes filled with pleading, before firmly shutting the door in his face. Chapter 10. Leo and I weren't even in the same city, yet during the New Year holidays, he frequently showed up around my neighborhood, trying to win over my parents. He'd help my dad move heavy items or carry my mom's shopping bags. Sometimes, he even shamelessly followed my parents into the house, introducing himself as my boyfriend. When he said that, Lucas and I, who were sitting on the sofa watching TV, were both stunned. Lucas struggled to swallow a piece of fruit before speaking up in confusion. You're Lisa's boyfriend? Then does that make me the homewrecker? Man, I might like Lisa, but I'd never do something like steal someone else's girlfriend. You should be careful with your words. Don't make false accusations. That day was the first time I ever saw Leo shed tears. I almost wavered, feeling like maybe Leo did have his reasons. But as I watched him leave in despair from behind the curtain on the second floor, I saw Alice's figure. She was clinging to Leo, acting all cutesy. Leo shook her off, yelling hysterically, "Get lost! It's all because of you that Lisa left me." During the festive early days of the new year, Leo and Alice stood outside my house, crying. Leo went from initially rejecting Alice to breaking down emotionally, holding her tightly, even while holding Alice. He kept sobbing. Lisa, why did you break up with me? Didn't you say you liked me the most? By now, I couldn't tell if Leo was just putting on a show for me or if he was genuinely expressing his emotions. But after that day, I never saw Alice again. One day, as I was returning home, I saw Leo once again at the gate. He was crouched under the winter-flowering plum tree, deep in thought, his shoes and pants covered in mud, looking utterly disheveled. The moment he saw me, he scrambled to his feet, raindrops streaming from his hair. But maybe he had been squatting for too long, his head seemed dizzy, and he had to lean weakly against the tree. His shoulder hit the trunk, causing a cascade of plum blossoms to fall. Without even looking at him, I calmly opened the gate. Leo suddenly grabbed my wrist, hurriedly trying to explain. Lisa, I've already sent Alice home. I won't let her affect our relationship again. Can we talk this over? I paused my movement, looking up at him. Leo, what relationship do we have? Before Leo could come up with a response, Lucas walked up the stone path toward me. He hadn't even had time to put on a coat. He held an umbrella as he came out to meet me. He angled the umbrella toward me, his voice cool. Lisa, Mom asked me to come get you for dinner. Lucas gently wiped the raindrops off my face with his large, well-defined hand. That simple sentence left Leo utterly shattered. Leo's eyes turned red, tears welling up. Lisa, what did he just say? What does he mean by our mom? I locked the gate from the inside and met Leo's gaze through the bars. Leo, if you're having hearing problems, you should get that checked at a hospital, and stop breaking into my yard. If you do it again, I'll really call the police. It had been almost a month since Leo and I broke up. I had thought breaking up would be painful, that it would leave me crushed. But to my surprise, once I truly saw Leo for who he was, my heart didn't hurt anymore. There was no painful withdrawal from leaving him. Lucas, sensing the moment, helped me tuck my hair behind my ear. His eyes filled with tenderness. Lisa, forget about him. Let's go home. Chapter 11. I stood still, simply watching Leo, who looked utterly broken. He seemed to still be lost in his delusions, unable to believe what was happening in front of him. Yes, the doormat that had tolerated everything for 3 years, why had she suddenly stopped putting up with it? How could he not understand? Even the most loyal dog gets tired. My eyes started to burn, blurring my vision, making it hard to see Leo's face. I took a deep breath, as if I had finally made up my mind. Leo, I liked you for 3 years, but what did you do? All you ever did was put me down in front of others, deny everything about me. Leo hung his head, saying nothing. 2 lines of tears rolled down his cheeks. I felt a lump in my throat. Leo, I'm not your mother. I can't endlessly and unconditionally tolerate you. I'm also not some pet you can call and dismiss whenever you please, always wagging my tail for your attention. I'm a person, a living human being. When you belittled me, when you put me down, did you even feel the slightest bit of pain or regret for me? Leo's body trembled violently, overwhelmed by his emotions. He swallowed hard, his gaze dropping. I'm sorry. I never thought my careless jokes would hurt you. The moment Leo said that, it felt like my heart had been struck by something heavy. In that moment, I finally realized that Leo had never been capable of truly loving anyone. He couldn't love anyone, not me, not Alice. We were both nothing more than tools for him to amuse himself. That day, Lucas could no longer bear it. He rushed forward and began fighting Leo. Leo spat out several mouthfuls of blood, but he didn't fight back. He just knelt on the ground, weakly begging for my forgiveness over and over. Lisa, as long as you forgive me, as long as you don't break up with me, even if you beat me to death today, I'll accept it. I'm begging you, please, don't leave me. In my daze, images flashed through my mind, Leo belittling me over the past 3 years, only to put on a show of apologizing afterward. It turns out Leo didn't know how to apologize sincerely. He was just too arrogant, believing that no matter how deeply he hurt me, I would always forgive him with a smile. After that day, Leo disappeared from my life. He didn't call me anymore, nor did he wait outside my house. The day Lucas took me back to school, I saw Alice at the school gate. It was strange, despite being at the same school for 2 years. I had never run into her before, but now that I wanted nothing to do with her, I ended up seeing her twice in one day. As I passed her for the second time, I ignored her, holding Lucas's hand as we walked ahead. Suddenly, Alice called out to me, her tone full of reproach. Lisa, did you know Leo's got depression? Chapter 12. Hearing this news, I was indeed a bit shocked. Leo diagnosed with depression in less than a month? I asked emotionlessly. Did Leo diagnose himself? Alice stomped her feet angrily and pulled a diagnosis out of her bag, throwing it in front of me. I found this in Leo's trash. If it weren't for you, Leo wouldn't be sick at all. I crossed my arms, looking at the hysterical Alice in front of me with interest. Now, I had to admit, she loved Leo more than I did. I glanced down at the diagnosis that had fallen to the ground but didn't bend down to pick it up. Alice, Leo is depressed now. This is the perfect chance for you to take advantage. So why come to me? Alice choked on my words, glaring at me fiercely. She picked up the diagnosis that had fallen by my feet and suddenly lunged at me. Lisa, you're heartless. You don't deserve Leo's love. Before Alice's hand could touch me, Lucas blocked her. The usually easygoing Lucas showed a cold and distant expression for the first time. He grabbed Alice's wrist, his tone icy. I don't hit women, but if you don't know your place, I wouldn't mind teaching you a lesson on behalf of your parents. After saying that, Lucas released her wrist, pushing her back slightly. Alice was terrified, her face turning pale. She gritted her teeth in hatred, speaking venomously. Lisa, if Leo dies because of you, will your conscience really feel nothing? With those words, she turned and disappeared from my sight. I was stunned for a few seconds, staring at Alice's retreating figure. Lucas wrapped an arm around my shoulder, returning to his usual gentle demeanor. What is our Lisa thinking about? Didn't you say you'd show me around the campus? Lucas's words pulled me back to reality, and I forced a slight smile. I raised my eyes, just about to say something to Lucas, when I unexpectedly met his eyes full of affection. Lucas raised an eyebrow. What? Is your little childhood friend too handsome, and you've been staring at him? My heart skipped a beat, and I hurriedly looked away, avoiding his gaze. Lucas's eyes could indeed steal a soul. Nonsense. I wasn't. Chapter 13. 5 years ago, Lucas went abroad to study. Back then, I was just starting my second year of high school. He had been with me for 17 years, but just when I needed him the most, he chose to leave. I was down for almost 2 years until I met Leo in college. At that time, I really didn't expect anything to happen between me and Leo. But in my freshman winter, I heard some news. Lucas had gotten a girlfriend abroad. In the deep winter, during a heavy snowfall, I walked alone on an empty campus, crying aloud. My first teenage crush ended just like that, without closure. It was during that time that I met Leo, standing outside my dorm holding a bouquet of roses. He said he liked me and wanted to be my boyfriend. I couldn't see any sincerity in Leo's eyes, nor did I feel any love. But out of spite, I took the bouquet and nodded in agreement. For 3 years, I never told Leo that I didn't actually like roses. Roses were Leo's favorite flower, not mine. The flower I had always loved was the wintersweet. But from the moment I chose to date Leo, I gradually opened my heart to him and gave him all my sincerity. Slowly, I seemed to forget about Lucas, the scent of wintersweet that always lingered around him. As I sat by the lake, telling Lucas about this part of my past, I felt an unprecedented sense of peace. Lucas, however, was far from calm. He jumped up, raising his voice by several notches. Lisa, who told you I had a girlfriend back then? I didn't even lift my eyelids, not daring to meet his gaze. Your mom. Lucas froze completely. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, biting his teeth in frustration. My mom kept pushing me to get a girlfriend, and I lied just to get some peace. He paused, his face flushing a bit. Besides, when I mentioned a girlfriend, I was actually talking about you. I abruptly looked up, meeting his eyes filled with deep affection. It turned out that my feelings at 17 weren't one-sided. Lucas and I had always been mutual. Even after clearing things up with Lucas, we didn't confirm our relationship. After all, it had been 5 years. Even the deepest feelings could gradually fade with time. Lucas ruffled my curly hair, leaning down slightly to meet my eyes. I'm not in a hurry now that I'm back. I'll be here waiting for you. Chapter 14. In the last semester of senior year, Leo didn't return to campus. From the bits and pieces I heard from classmates, I realized Leo was really sick, seriously sick. On the day we took our graduation photos, just when everyone thought Leo wouldn't show up, he appeared. After months apart, Leo looked completely different. The light had faded from his once beautiful eyes, now clouded and lost. I hid in the crowd, silently observing the weary-looking Leo. He was holding a bouquet of roses, trudging through the crowd towards me. Lisa, congratulations on graduating. I looked down at the familiar roses, then up at Leo's hopeful eyes. Amid the cheers from the crowd, I didn't move a muscle. I didn't take the flowers. Instead, I simply said, Leo, after all this time, did you still not notice? I'm allergic to roses. Leo froze, like it was the first time he'd ever heard that. Realizing he brought the wrong flowers, he frantically hid them behind his back, his voice trembling as he spoke. Lisa, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I bluntly exposed his weak excuse. I told you, you just chose not to remember. The second time Leo gave me roses, I had already told him I was allergic. I even showed him my arm covered in rashes. At the time, Leo had simply turned away in disgust, saying, keep your arm away from me. Just looking at it makes my trypophobia act up. Gross. Leo's face changed, and he tossed the flowers aside like they were burning him. He desperately grabbed my hand, his voice full of humility. Lisa, tell me what flowers you like, and I'll bring them to you every day. After a few months, when Leo touched me again, my immediate reaction was to avoid him. I pulled my hand away forcefully, and in the process, I saw several scars crisscrossed on his wrist. One of the scars seemed fresh, still oozing blood. Leo recoiled like he'd been electrocuted, trying to cover the scars. Lisa, don't look. I don't want to scare you. During his time with depression, Leo had resorted to self-harm. Alice had already messaged me about it a while ago. At that time, she had pleaded with me sincerely to go see Leo. Lisa, have you no conscience at all? Do you really need to wait until the day you see Leo's corpse before you kneel down and beg for his forgiveness? It's not that I'm heartless. I once truly cared for Leo. It's just unfortunate that it had come to this. After I refused, Alice lost control completely. She sent me countless messages, cursing me to die a horrible death. Before I could reply, Lucas grabbed my phone and called the police. Hello. I'd like to report someone threatening my girlfriend. After that, Alice was warned by the police, and she disappeared from our lives. I pulled my hand back and glanced at Leo. Don't worry. A few scars like that don't scare me. There wasn't a hint of emotion or turbulence in my voice. Seeing those scars meant nothing more to me than seeing anything else. Nothing special at all. Chapter 15. Leo, with reddened eyes, bowed his head to me once more. Lisa, you've grown bolder. And that's good. Yes, that's really good. He wanted to say more to me, but I had already run out of patience. Lucas was standing a short distance away, smiling at me. I stood on my tiptoes and waved at Lucas with a smile, making no attempt to hide my affection for him. Leo followed my gaze, looking at Lucas in his white shirt. He forced a self-deprecating smile and shook his head. Lisa, haven't you realized that he and I are very similar? In truth, you've always loved me. Why deceive yourself by finding a substitute? I turned around, surprised, and looked at Leo. Who told you he's a substitute? I forgot to mention that when I was 17, I already liked Lucas. Tell me, who here is really the substitute? In truth, I never treated anyone as a stand-in for anyone else. I respect each individual and value every relationship. When I had a crush on Lucas, I was wholehearted. When I was with Leo, I also gave him everything. I don't owe anyone anything, and no one has the right to judge me. Leo, I admit I used to like you, but I don't anymore. If you want to hurt yourself, if you want to die, that's up to you. It has nothing to do with me. Your life is your own. If you don't value it, why would anyone else? I gave him one last deep look, a complete farewell to the past 3 years. Leo loosened his hand, which had been clenched over his scars, and a few droplets of blood instantly seeped out. He looked like a child trying to gain attention by self-harming, and after being heartlessly exposed, he seemed both awkward and panicked. His voice was hoarse, repeating, "Lisa, it's not like that. It really isn't." I could see Leo's dissatisfaction and longing for our relationship, but what did that prove? Did it prove that his constant belittling and humiliation of me were acts of love? I interrupted him. "Leo, there are so many people in this world. Why are you so fixated on me? Let me go, and let yourself go too." With that, I lifted my skirt and ran towards Lucas. All that was left behind was Leo, slumped on the ground, forlorn and defeated. After graduation, Lucas and I returned to our hometown to work. On the flight back home, I was staring at the clouds below when I suddenly caught a refreshing scent of wintersweet. It wasn't like perfume. It felt more natural. But in the middle of summer, where could there be wintersweet? I turned my head and saw Lucas holding a small bouquet of flowers wrapped in green leaves. Lucas, slightly flustered, spoke with a bit of a stammer. "I know you like wintersweet, but since it's summer now, I could only find summer wintersweet. I hope you like it." A blush crept across his face, and he looked down as he nervously fiddled with the flowers in his hands. For a moment, it was like I was seeing the 17-year-old boy I had fallen in love with. The boy who stood outside my building and softly said, "Lisa, just wait 4 or 5 years, and I'll come back. You have to be good and wait for me." I smiled and plucked a small white wintersweet flower from the bouquet. "Lucas, you know, I've always loved wintersweet.